What is up with this? What's going on, everybody? So today I wanted to talk about that C8 dyno chart. I mean, obviously something crazy is going on here. Motor Trend dynoed this thing at 558 horsepower to the wheels.
I'm Miguel Cortina, Managing Editor of Motor Trend en Español.
And I'm Kim Reynolds, Testing Director of Motor Trend.
So today we're going to talk about the surprising results that we got from taking the Corvette to the dyno. In terms of torque, it went from 515 at the wheels, which means it's about 606 pound-feet of torque at the crank. About 558 horsepower. 558 horsepower, which means after drivetrain losses, it's 650 horsepower.
I'm not buying it, dude. I love GM and I've got a lot of faith in that motor platform. They put out a ton of power, but basically it's an LT2. It's very similar to an LT1, albeit that it's in a rear wheel drive. It's in a mid-engine configuration, but 558 horsepower out of that at the wheels, that seems really unrealistic. I mean, the car's obviously got a tame idle. It's not supercharged, nothing like that. If you actually compare it to what a C7 Z06 would dyno, they dyno about 572 rear wheel horsepower bone stock, but that's with a supercharger. So their claim of a little over 10 more horsepower, it just doesn't make any sense for a naturally aspirated version compared to a supercharged car. The LT1s are very similar in cylinder head specs, same size valves, same size combustion chambers, same compression ratio, if all those specs are correct. I mean, so it's not, something's not adding up. Something's a little strange, and I hate to be a skeptic, but, I don't know what's going on with that dyno. I mean, maybe the operator was hungover or something, but, one of their calibrations was not set up right. Now the SAE numbers, if it was, what was it, negative 20 degrees outside? Like, what was going on? So something's a little strange. But yeah, and they claim like a 15% drivetrain loss, and they assume maybe it'll be like 650 horsepower at the flywheel. The only thing that actually makes sense is the numbers that their dyno was reading was actual calculated to be what may be around what the flywheel was at, plus a few 10 horsepower or so. The big red flag for me was, if you actually look at the dyno graph, let's see, I got it right here, let me show you. So if you look at this dyno graph here, you'll see where it peaks off there, right there. Basically, the dyno graph looks correct. It crosses over at 52.52, and it revs out. However, it peaks at just about what's 5,900 RPM. So, since when has an LT1 actually peaked that low in the RPM band? And then you also notice that it just takes a complete nosedive right towards the end there, and it goes back down to a more respectable, 400 and. It's hard to read. The chart's really blurry. There's not really a whole lot of information. The chart is really low resolution, so I blew it up as big as I could see. But, it looks like it's dipping down, below 500 horsepower towards the trail end of that chart. So if I saw a dyno chart like that, I would immediately be wondering, hey, maybe the valves are floating. We should probably look into this. If the car is actually deserving of that type of power, something would be majorly wrong. So that's, for me, that's strike two. So I think what would happen if the car actually put out around 650 flywheel horsepower. If you go online, you can do some horsepower to weight calculators. They did weigh the Corvette in another video, I believe, by a different team, and they actually ran it at the quarter mile. So these specs, they put out 11.1 at 123 miles per hour. The car was weighed at, it was like 3640 or something. So if you add a 160-pound driver, I forget what the actual rate that they did, but I wrote it down after. A driver with a 160-pound driver, the car should be somewhere around 3780, which seems a little heavy. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but say the car did weigh what they weighed it, 3780 with a driver, and you put out about 548 horsepower to the flywheel, you could trap like 123 miles per hour, which is what they trapped. They trapped 11.1 and 123. So yeah, I'm sure the numbers are a little bit underrated, but not by over 150 more horsepower like they're claiming. I just don't see it happening. You know, I've done heads and cams on LT1s. The last one was a 16 vet, and did a heads and cam, ported heads, and a mild cam. It was still choppy, you know, so you could obviously tell it was cammed. It put out about 520 horsepower to the wheels through an automatic. Now they have most likely more of a parasitic draw on the horsepower, so you know it's probably over 600 horsepower, you know, from the motor, you know, easily. But that car, yeah, with all that, made only about 520 horsepower to the wheels. So there ain't no way in hell that they're going to be able to get 558 horsepower to the wheels out of something with basically, you know, a slightly upgraded intake manifold, slightly upgraded exhaust. I mean, granted that the exhaust on the C8 is pretty nice. It's a nice, looks like a shorty manifold, you know, header basically, that's up and swept to the back. So, you know, the exhaust is a lot shorter, so you have a little bit less drag on that. But, you know, the car's super tame. I don't think they got a factory ringer. I don't think that someone accidentally, you know, installed a supercharger on this thing. I mean, it just doesn't make any damn sense at all. So, yeah, pretty much I just wanted to, you know, make a video on this because, you know, don't believe the hype. I don't know what's up with that. It's kind of embarrassing because their numbers are obviously flawed. And, you know, it's drumming up a lot of hype, you know, which is great. You know, I love the new vet, and I'm sure it's going to sell well. I mean, pretty much, you know, GM doesn't need anybody else hyping them up. You know, they've got, you know, these cars are all spoken for at least the next year. So, you know, and then just getting over this U-Haul strike, you know, I know that they're going to be really backed up by the time they all get back to work if they haven't already. So, yeah, I just wanted to make a video and just post that. I mean, you know, that dynograph just doesn't look right. You know, something's not looking right somewhere around in here. What is up with this? You know, if that was a true LT1, I mean, LT1's bone stock. They carry all the way to like 6,400 RPM before peaking. So we're missing about 500 RPM. It was basically falling on its face at 59. So something's not right, man. I'd be looking at valve floater or something, you know, and you know, it's just the numbers just aren't adding up. So I don't know if they were shifting gears between dyno pulls and just blipping the rollers or something. I don't know, and they're just piecing together just different versions of it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. There's definitely some room for improvement over the LT1s, bone stock form. So, you know, that's why we mod them. You know, we know that we can improve them. So, I just don't, I'm really not seeing that big of a change. And especially, you know, if you're gonna, you know, the C7s, they're like 450 horsepower. So, you know, going from 450 to 496, I mean, it's a substantial jump. So, I mean, they're definitely making some efficiency improvements with the model. So I don't think you're gonna see, you know, 558 horsepower out of one to the wheels. You know, don't get your hopes up. You know, the dyno operators there must have just, I don't know, they must have been a little hungover or something. I think maybe they dynoed it probably before they weighed it. You know, they entered the wrong specs. You know, you can make a dyno read whatever you want it to read. There's a video for that. I'll even post a link over here. So check that out. That's not by me, so, you know, it's interesting, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think these things are going to be factory freaks? I wish it was. I wish it was. You know, I love GM and everything that they do. They do some really cool stuff. I don't know. Let me know what you think, what's going on here, because, I mean, is Motor Trend just, you know, trying to just throw out some bogus numbers? I mean, it's kind of sad. You know, it's kind of embarrassing, really. I mean, it's so bogus. It does not line up with their quarter mile times at all. So, I mean, I don't know. Unless they screwed up the weight of the car. You know, does the car weigh, you know, 4,000 pounds? Then it might run 11, you know, ones at 123. If it's, you know, 4,000 pound car, I mean, you know, That's just insane though. But naturally aspirated, no way, no way. I don't believe it at all. I mean, maybe they dynoed it, came up with a number, and had a correction factor built in that was modified to try to tell them what the flywheel horsepower was. I mean, even if it was 558 at the flywheel, I think that's still a little high, but I don't know. It's just crazy. So let me know what you guys think. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. And if you like these type of videos, you guys, maybe we'll do some more. So I appreciate you all watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.